Member Girardi, Member Espericueta, Member Jarrell, Vice President Irvin,
Here.
and President Cornett.
Here. Item 2, is there anyone in the audience that make a public comment? Seeing no public comments, we'll go on to the study session, Facilities Bond and Redevelopment Projects Update. Mr. Simmons?
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to introduce Julie Arthur, Executive Director of Facilities Planning and Development. Along with, we have a few guests here. Kent Helms is our Assistant Director, and then we also have a couple of associates from HMC Architecture here that Kent will introduce a little bit later as we get into the program.
All right, good afternoon, board members and our cabinet. We are at our annual June facility study session, and we're going to go over some options here for a new project, but we're also going to, again, always review what we've done in the past, look at our redevelopment funds and our bond funds. So this is our overview, our recap, our Desert Hot Springs High Athletic Building, redevelopment bond, and then we're going to talk about Cathedral City modernization and where we're at on our budget. All right, recapping, December 9th, at the study session there, we looked at forming a 7-Eleven committee as we look at our property management of our assets the district has. Then on March 23rd, we looked at the next phase of modernizations, and it was determined that we would start our Desert Springs Middle School modernizations, our Vista Del Monte Elementary modernization, Mount San Jacinto High modernization, Cielo Vista Charter modernization. And the dollars that are up there, the $5 million and $3 for San Jacinto, those represent just design funds. Before, we'll be doing scoping, we'll look at the site, we'll see what the issues are at the site, how to bring it up to current code, and then we're going to come back, same thing, and bring you some options. Usually 1, 2, and 3 options of what we want to do on the modernization there. All right, before we jump too far into Desert Hot Springs High School, Jeff wanted to take a moment just to review funds and projects with you.
And so, as you may remember, when we approved...
Can I get one just quick question for you? Just curious to the $3 million, $5 million budget that was set aside. What was the reason for the $3 million and the $5 million for the others? I know that that's not the total cost, but what was the reason?
So the $3 million is for MSJ because it's a much smaller school site.
Okay.
So we don't believe there's going to be as much that we're going to have to do in looking and investigating the site.
But that's for, just like it says, just for design and scoping. So, and those are, again, just estimates of what we think the design will be. It could be less. So. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to review a little bit about the Measure S bond. As you might remember, it was passed in 2024 for $465 million. We have not taken out any series at this particular point because we've been so focused on the other projects, and we didn't want to pull out the money too soon. You might remember the arbitrage discussion from a few weeks ago in relation to the other bonds that we're going through. So we decided that we're going to hold on to this money until we absolutely need it, rather than having the cash on hand. So we're a little bit. Dale Scott and his group estimated the Series A to be sold in 2025. We'll probably sell the first series either later this year in 2026 or early 2027. And then what we're looking for that is pretty much to handle these first 3 here, the bubbling wells modernization that the board has already chosen that one option for. We're already looking to, the design's done. We're looking to go to bid here pretty soon on that one. We also understand that the board was wanting us to look at finishing Cathedral City High School modernization, the final phase, which you might recall included the administration office, the gym, and the theater, and the kitchen. Am I missing anything, Julie? Food service. Food, kitchen, so. Yeah. So that's all part of the final phase. We estimated somewhere back a year or so ago that was going to be maybe around 40 million or so. We still don't have a final estimate on that one because it's still we still need to bring it back to the board for that final budget numbers, but those are just rough. And then we've recently been discussing this Desert Hot Springs High School athletic facilities, which is kind of mainly the focus of today, looking at some different options for that. And then Julie will kind of go over what she discussed with cabinet and what cabinet's recommendations are, and then sort of look for that guidance from the board. We think that we'll be coming back to you with actual budget numbers the next study session that we have on that one. But those three projects should be able to be covered with this first series, plus perhaps some of this OPSC reimbursement money we're expecting about $60 million over the next 4 years. Once we get into the next series, it's probably going to be those next three modernizations, which is Vista Del Monte, Desert Springs, and Mount San Jacinto. Not necessarily in that order, but that would be from the next series. And then the series after that will probably be Cielo Vista Charter. So there's still, it takes time for these projects, as you know. We're not going to just pull out the $465 million because we promised the taxpayers that we would keep it, the tax rate at 106, so you have to pull them out in smaller increments in order to be able to stay under that 106 per 100,000. So if we pulled out the 465 all at once, then that tax rate would go up extremely high, and that's not what we promised. So that's why we have to take this in these different series, in these different phases. So it's just kind of an overview of what we understand where we're at with the board, and hopefully that's your understanding as well. I just wanted to make sure that, we're kind of all on the same page here with how we were going to proceed with these dollars. So, all right.
Pardon me. The projects, we see sometimes them numbered 1, 2, 3, and I don't know if the board has decided that Bubbling Wells is number 1 and Cielo Vista is number 8. So I'm not sure how this order came to be. And is this a priority list? You said
Yeah,
handle the
pretty much
first
that's based on the study sessions that we've been discussing and the priorities that we've been discussing with the board and the direction that we understand the board to have gone in. That's why I'm presenting this like this, to make sure that we are all on the same page. Because if you remember, we presented Bubbling Wells quite a while ago, well over a year ago. We put it to design, brought it here before you, gave you 3 options. You picked the Cadillac version. And, that's when we decided, okay, we're moving forward with design and construction and whatnot. So that's how Bubbling Wells became first.
Which ones
At the same
are
time, we were also
closest?
discussing finishing Cathedral City, and that's sort of how that one, ended up there in that rankings as well.
So number 1 would be Bubbling Wells, number 2 would be Cathedral City, and then you have number 3, Desert Hot Springs, and then number 4, that's the board list of priorities.
So the first 3 would be part of the first series, if you will. I don't know about the particular order, but Bubbling Wells is ready to go. The design is done. We're ready to go to bid on that one, and we're ready to start construction here fairly soon. As you know, Cathedral City High School is already in the process of being modernized. It's just a question of getting the dollars and the budget right from the board, accepting the budget in order to finish that final phase. But that's already an ongoing project. And then Desert Hot Springs Athletic Facilities, as we brought to you about, several months ago, the training room issues and the weight room issues. Since they've been discussing that, we've also had the possibility of adding a gym to that, but I don't know that that's something we want to do at this particular moment. That'll be discussed here through this conversation. But as far as order is concerned, you can kind of lump those first 3 with the first series, and then the next 3 with the next series of money that's coming in. Like I said, it depends on, it all depends on the funding that we have, but for example, Vista Del Monte and Desert Springs Middle School will probably be done pretty much at the same time, not necessarily in any particular order. But this is the assumptions that we've been gathering from these study sessions, and the reason why I wanted to present this, as far as an understanding of where we're at. So,
Yeah, I have a question. Beside this study session or any conversation that we have in the board members level, what kind of information or how we involve the community, the cities, the parent from that specific school? Do we share this kind of information to, or is just board members' conversation?
When we get around to actually doing that school's modernization and design, all that is taken into consideration. Yeah, we meet at the schools, we meet with the site administration, the site staff, the community gets involved in the design of, so that's when we would meet with the community, not necessarily, we meet with, as far as when we go out for the bond, we've discussed all of these as far as the bond measures and what we plan on doing with the money. And then as we get to each one of those projects, it gets more specific with the community that's involved.
Thank you.
And I'll just add real quick, both Bubbling Wells and Cathedral City High were part of our first phase of modernizations. It's just taken us longer to get there. And that first phase included James Workman Middle School, Landau, Sunny Sands, and Della Lindley. So they're at the tail end of our first phase. And when we came in March, our next phase talked about Vista Del Monte, Desert Springs, Mount San Jacinto, and Cielo Vista as our next phase of modernizations.
Could you give us updates on those 4 schools? How close are they going to reopen in 2027, and maybe the dates that they're set to reopen?
Yes.
Can we do that?
Would you like that now
No,
or
like
later
a
in the?
future time.
Okay.
We could include that on the Friday. You're talking about the current projects that we have?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're there and we're seeing things, but we're not sure, like, how close are we?
Yeah, we're pretty close, but we'll give you the estimates in a Friday.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, next up, we're going to have Kent Hims and Brian Myers, and they're going to talk about some options at Desert Hot Springs High School. Again, the initial setting is there are some issues at the high school on the baseball fields, softball fields, and the weight room and training. The program at Desert Hot Springs High School has grown immensely, the athletic program, and the weight room and training room were not sufficient facilities for the program that it had. The issue of the restrooms on the field, we've slowly moved restrooms to our high school fields over the years. They have not had restrooms on the field. It appears to be a bit of a jaunt, and then they have to have areas opened up that are not supervised. So that's what started the conversation on that. And then they looked at some issues at the high school and talked with the administration and went from there. So Kent?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President and board members. I was assigned this project after the board approved some design funds at one of the study sessions, and we contacted HMC Architects, who provided us a proposal after walking the campus and looking at the existing facilities. Subsequently, we met with staff and started discussing with them some of the deficiencies they saw in their facilities. And in doing that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Myers, who's going to address what we found and how we compared those to some of our other high schools, just how it compared with as far as gym space, weightlifting space, wrestling space, those items and training room space that the administration had brought to the attention of the staff. So, Brian, I'll turn it over to you. You want to use this?
Is this on? Yes. Can you hear me okay? Thank you very much, Madam President, members of the board. It's my privilege to be here today to share with you some of the insights that we've gathered over the past several months on the Desert Hot Springs High School site with, after discussions with your facilities team and with members of the staff out there. Anytime we go through a design project, we like to start with a visioning exercise where we try to understand what are the opportunities, what are the constraints, and through that process we can develop a series of stakeholder priorities. And so as we went through that process with your team, we obviously knew the things that when we walked the site initially, but one of the things that popped up as we began to compare it to some of the other school sites was the possibility of having an auxiliary gym added to the campus. So that's one of the considerations. Obviously, when you go through these types of exercises, school facilities and school facilities and the costs associated with that will take precedent over some of the priorities. So what we're bringing to you today are some options that kind of outline those priorities in 3 different ways that give you 3 different options to kind of address this challenge on the site. So we went out, took a look at several of the facilities. Julie had mentioned a couple of the deficient facilities, like some of the restroom issues, the wrestling facilities, the weight room and training facilities, identified those needs, where they're at on the campus. We take a look at the campus itself, try to identify some of the challenges. We've got some utility issues out there that have cost implications. We have safety and security issues that we want to make sure that we look at and address. There's some very interesting topography out there that we need to address and consider, as well as we look at how we can develop in some of on this particular location that we had identified. So there's a handful of things that we look at on the site itself. And then we look into the components of the challenges of the existing weight room and the existing training facility where they're at right now. How can we look to expand and create new opportunities on the existing campus? These were all some of the items that we had discussed with the stakeholders. Obviously, the possibility of creating some sort of space out on the baseball field where we can support some changing spaces and the restroom facilities. Those are needs that currently provide a lot of challenges of access to and from the sites. So we looked at that at both of the areas of the campus, including the softball restrooms as well. And then we identified.
Hold on one second.
Yes.
Can you back up 2 slides there? So just to let you know, right now we actually rent a porta potty facility that we connect to the baseball field during baseball season for these restrooms, because if anybody wants to use the restroom that is actually built, they have to go over to the football field. That's why we wanted to take a look at these restrooms. And then there's really no restrooms that are close to the softball field, but there is an area where there's restrooms on the inside of the campus right here. Oh, yep, that one right there, where you can actually tack on to those and put restrooms on the outside of that, on the other side of the wall, to where they're facing outside, and that's close to the softball field and the play area that's on the outside right there. That would be good for any families and whenever we're having softball games and whatnot.
And with the challenges of the topography, obviously, if you look at the path of travel, we need to consider that as well to make sure that you can get patrons safely from the location to their restroom facilities. So these are all improvements that can certainly enhance that. One other component to this that needs to be considered is the sewer. When the sewer was initially planned at this campus, it all went out to the east, and unfortunately, that left an area uncovered where it was very difficult to provide sewer access in this little pit area where the baseball field is at now. So the potential of extending a sewer line to the south.
May I ask, Mr. Hems?
Yes.
You said the stakeholders gave input, and who were they, and how was it prioritized with larger weight room, larger athletic training room, and a house water and water cooler storage? How did that priority list come about?
So again, through the initial conversations that we had with the site, we had multiple conversations with the principal, the athletic department, the athletic director, and other teachers and staff out on site. And through that process and through those conversations, we developed those priority lists. And the top priority in this instance was getting a larger weight room. They felt like that was insufficient at the existing site. And I can go into all the details if you'd like. I'm happy to do that.
I just wonder, because you said the weight training room was tiny. Well, it doesn't kind of tell me how tiny it was, right?
Yeah.
The size of a classroom. And then, we have seen the program grow over years, Julie said. Is that by students, by athletes? There's kind of a lot of questions that I
I think I can answer
interested?
a couple
Okay.
of those. So yes, the answer to it's grown by students and a number of students that want to be a part of the athletic competitions. In fact, they're starting to get more and more JV teams now as well. So when the school first started, it was, a little bit tougher to get the sports program started and whatnot, and they began to grow more varsity teams, so we gave them more coaching stipends and whatnot, and then now they're even growing into JV teams, so it really has grown to the point of the other schools and what they're doing as well. They're almost to the point where they're pretty even with the athletic programs that they have up there. The other thing this really started when I got a call actually in regards to taking a look at this training room and, where the athletic trainers had to do all their wrapping and where the ice baths were and stuff. And literally the ice bath for the football players was probably smaller than this table because the room is just about the width of, probably not even the width of two tables as far as the training room is concerned. It's super, super small. It's very, so that's what she means by tiny. And then you lead into the back weight room, and it's, it's another very small area when you have all these football players and weights and stuff, flying around and whatnot. It's somewhat of an unsafe condition, but, I wish we could have taken the board up there on a tour and whatnot, but it is, in comparison to the other schools and the other weight rooms that I've seen, that's what started the initial conversation, is because it just doesn't even compare. It's not even close.
How many students have access to these facilities out of 1,700 or 1,600 students? How many students right now use those, and how many are needed? I mean, how much need is there based on the growth you mentioned? So
I mean, we can get you the data of how many students are in sports. I don't want to pretend to have that data on me right now, but I mean, if you think of the average football team has about 50 players, at any one time they're using those facilities. Same with the wrestling teams, are somewhere around 25 players. The girls teams as well at the same time. So we can get you the number of athletes that they have. What I can tell you is they do have the largest enrollment out of all of the schools, and they're still growing in their athletic programs to reach the level of the other schools. But they're
level would
getting
that
there. They're very close. So.
What level would that be? And it's because I don't know the other schools.
Well, for example, when they first started out, they had varsity football and whatnot. Now they're getting to the JV program, same with varsity basketball. They had the main sports and whatnot, and now they're developing more into the, to the individual sports and getting more participants in like track and field and tennis and softball and baseball, and now they're getting JV teams. And so each year, since I've been here anyway, I obviously can't speak too far into the past, but they've asked for more and more stipends to fulfill their athletic needs, particularly in the JV area. So, but to answer your original question, that's how this whole conversation got started. Is, I went up there, took a look at their training facility, and says, okay, well, let's take it to the board and see what what they say. And then so this is through more conversations with administration and so forth. And again, we can, when we go out and we do these type of things, we can still expand it to community conversations and whatnot, but this is what the staff and administration felt like they needed. And, like I said, me looking at it from the outside in comparison, knowing that we have to do rentals for, porta potties and stuff like that, and for the restrooms, and then looking at the gym and the training room, those were the immediate need. Out of that conversation came potential other needs that, like perhaps an auxiliary gym because they don't have one, the other schools do. I don't think that that's what we're necessarily going to be recommending to the board this evening, is going that far, but at least taking care of these immediate needs of this, like I said, the small training room, the small weight room, getting those redesigned, and a little bit bigger, and then the restroom facilities, getting that taken care of, is kind of those basic immediate needs, if you will.
will this put them in an equal fitting with our other high schools? Some of these improvements?
Some of them, yes, but if you're talking about equal, that would probably be more adding on the auxiliary gym and whatnot as well, and going for the full expansion, if you, if you will, so,
Okay.
yeah.
We're starting to get them so where they're equal, because they do have the most students.
Correct.
So, I mean, who wants to have 25 football players in a room that size?
With
Well,
the survey?
this is not the weight room, but this would be like you know, kind of the width of the training room, and it goes
Oh,
back.
yeah.
So it's probably maybe 10 feet by, what'd you say, 20, 25 feet? It's just very,
Very small.
very small.
Okay.
If I understand correctly, Jeff, the other comprehensive high schools have auxiliary gyms?
That is correct, yes.
And if you want to know what the community thinks they're always getting the short end of the stick from this school district. That's what the community thinks.
Yeah, and we're trying to dispel that, I guess, if you will, because we have done a lot of improvements up there, but there's still certainly more to be done. I mean, look at what we're going to do with bubbling wells and some of, you know, there've been a lot of small improvements up there, but I know that there's been a long time, you know, coming, if you will, for these types of improvements. And yeah, like I said, we're going to be presenting some options here and getting some guidance from you as to what you truly want. Do you want us to focus on the actual priorities that we've identified, or do you want us to go a step further and see what else we can do, knowing that that might reduce some other, you know, maybe Cathedral City High School may have to be kind of lowered down depending on the money that we're able to get from the bond and OPSC and whatnot. So that's why that first slide was kind of there to discuss these priorities. I mean, as they come up, just like bubbling wells, we gave you some options, discuss, and, you know, move forward. Cathedral City, when that was first discussed, gave you a bunch of options, put it into different phases at that time because that's what the board wanted, and then, you know, so now we were able to complete most of that, but we still have a final phase to complete. Desert Hot Springs, the same thing. I mean, that school was built, you know, with a certain number of students in mind. They've grown, the athletics have grown. You know, do we want to, you know, put them as a priority in these positions and use the bond money for some of these expansions as well? And as you know, we always try to find other money. That's why I put that OPSC reimbursements in there. And, you know, we always look for other ways, multiple ways to fund these besides just bond money. So you never know what's going to come up in the future here over the next few years, but that's sort of the original slide there is what we expect. So, but anyway, that's how, long story short, that's how it came about. Mostly from me just going up there and observing and then putting this into motion is based on what I saw, so.
There were no surveys of teachers, parents, and children. They were just
No,
feedback
not at this
from
time,
administrators.
not at this time, no. If the board would like us to do that, we can, but it was, yeah, I think if you took a tour up there, it was, and I probably should have taken you guys up there the last time we were up there with the board meeting. I think you would have agreed that, it's like, oh, what is this? You know, so.
I just want to say, John, I hope that you're letting them know that they're not the butt end of the district and they don't get it that way. I think if you look here, 3 of the next 5 projects are in Desert Hot Springs.
I agree, and it's not what I say, it's what this board does,
Yeah.
right? It's what the school district does.
Yeah.
Actions speak louder than words, Charlie.
3 of 5.
I think Mr. Myers will address some of these questions because we'll look at through this process, we looked at the other high schools to try to bring some equity to the campus, and he'll be talking about that.
So I want to share just 3 different options that we had developed that, and I'm gonna start just by introducing. I'm gonna turn it over to Christina Barger, one of our associates, to have her walk through each of them in a little bit more detail. But essentially, option 1 identified those core basic needs at the campus. We knew that there was weight room and training room issues that we could see, we talked about. We also knew about the restrooms and changing rooms that needed to happen, and also safety and security issues to help kind of guide and direct patrons as they're walking through campus in a safe and secure manner. Option 2 began to look at the equity issue and to see what we could do and how much it would cost to try to bring in an auxiliary gym. recognizing that we may have to make some decisions about some of the other priorities if we go that route, because obviously an auxiliary gym is going to cost a little bit more. We'll get into those details as well. And then a third option, which really explored how to bring all these components to the single site on the location where it's located, with a new wrestling room, a new weight room, a new auxiliary gym. And we'll kind of outline some of the options and ideas that we had created with that. I also want to share that this was all this is a programmatic exercise intended to give you enough information to help make a decision. Ultimately, the design will be refined and focused more with stakeholders and working with the facilities team to help develop and create more options.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more in detail on every option. So here you can see option 1. This is more basic option that addresses the most immediate needs of the site. As we discussed, once we remodel training room, which is currently very small, it will take place over the existing weight room and expand there to accommodate for the athletic needs of the department. So providing more space for training and also training resource. And then it will need weight room that we are taking over for training. So that is what we're proposing, to add new construction currently next to the existing gym. And that will accommodate the current needs of the campus and also the future needs that are currently not met. And then also this option does provide restrooms for the baseball fields down south. They're currently non-existent, and there is a supervision problem, and it also addresses the need for softball restrooms on the north. The downside of this option, that if we are putting this weight room, as you see in this diagram, right there next to the existing gym, it can jeopardize the potential of building an auxiliary gym in the future.
I'm going to chime in just a little bit with that one. I think if we did go with this option 1, we would need to look at a different place for that weight room, and we would bring it back to the board. Because, as she said, that would take the place of a future auxiliary gym. So we would look to figure out a different way to increase the weight room within that same, capacity of taking care of all the option 1 sort of priorities.
So would that weight room be either one of the 2 options up there? A or B? Or
Yeah.
are you just removing it?
We could explore that as well. We're just suggesting currently some test fits of where it could potentially go, but we could explore other locations as well.
Well, if we went with an auxiliary gym, where would you propose the weight room be?
Well, that would be more conversations with the architect, but you've got quite a bit of room on that slope that's down next to where the wrestling weight room is. I'm sorry, the wrestling room and whatnot. So we can explore, something there, or even that area down where it says option B, where the tennis court, so even more sports programs have access to the weight room. Something else, but I wouldn't want to do option A, weight room, unless you were going to go with option 3, which I don't know this is necessarily the recommendation at this particular point, but I don't want to take up that space where we would ultimately want to put the auxiliary gym.
So you're saying B would probably be a better location for it?
B or
Considering
some
such-
other place. We'll take a look at it, what's the best path of travel and so forth with the architect, but yes.
There's a
So-
lot of space back there behind on the basketball court.
Correct.
area.
I don't believe A or B are the best
Yeah.
options
Yeah.
for this weight room. I believe that we could do a little bit more where the existing training room is. That way our weight room is up in that area. We
Yes.
are dealing with a severe slope,
Yes.
but we can take retaining walls and build up
Yes.
and grab space that way.
Yes.
I think we all think that weight room needs to be connected
Close
to
by
the
the
other, close by to the other
Football
buildings.
fields, yeah.
Yeah, my point is, I think there's other options besides just taking up that space.
Got you.
Okay. So for this option, again, there are multiple of potential locations that it can be located at. While looking at potential sizing, we looked at Benning High School weight room, and that is what we based our estimations on. and that would accommodate the needs, current needs and future needs of the athletic program well.
What is the square footage of that space that you're thinking of?
Square footage of that space is about, I think, 30, the Benning on, or proposed,
Well, yeah, the proposed, I mean, like,
they're
what is the size?
about 3,500 square feet.
Curious, why are we comparing this to Banning and not our other high schools?
Well, Banning is one of the high schools that is in their division, and it's one of the more newer, modern ones that have recently been done. Do you want to speak
Is
to
this
that a little bit more,
probably
Kent?
just compared to Palm Springs or Cathedral City as far as square footage?
We did look at those for square footage. This is one that the principal had been at and had asked us to look at to see if we could accommodate these particular weight racks.
I can
Yeah.
tell you that Palm Springs is not over 3,000 square feet for sure. And it kind of looks similar to that idea, the setup that they have there in Palm Springs High School looks similar to that. They have the little mats down in front of and how many, do you have an idea about how many stations it is? Like 1, 2, 3?
I think they have currently 8 stations. It's showing 7, but they had to squeeze in the 8th, and it was really tight space. And based on what we've heard from the coach, they also desire 8 stations.
That looks pretty good.
Moving on to the option 2. So in our exploration and talking with vice principal and athletic department coaches, we have heard a concern that the school also does not have a space, a gym that can provide space for competition, for basketball competition and for wrestling. So this came out of that conversation where we proposed auxiliary gym, which would give that opportunity to have these events. So when we were looking at developing this option, we were asked to reference Palm Springs High School. They have the new auxiliary gym that just built. So you see a little diagram on the left, as well as main gym with 3 basketball courts, and we currently have 2 in the existing gym, which does not allow for competition. So the proposed auxiliary gym can be placed next to existing gym as a single story. And going back to the needs, we also still need that weight room because we're planning on also remodeling the training room because it's a very much necessary need currently for the campus. So what this does, it does maximize the functionality of the campus. It does provide opportunity for the competitive events and also wrestling. And the downside of this option is that it does not address all the deficiencies, such as restroom supervision problem for the baseball fields and softball fields. So potentially there will be another project coming in the future for that. And also to
Sorry.
Go ahead.
May I ask, how old is Palm Springs High School compared to Desert Hot Springs High School? Like,
I don't know originally the year.
You're thinking about adding on a gym, the 88-year-old high school compared to a 19-something.
They just remodeled their
Yeah,
main gym
yeah.
completely. It's brand new, and they
Because it's older.
just built new auxiliary gym.
So
In
the
addition.
gym at Palm Springs High School was built in 1996.
Okay.
The original school of Palm Springs High is 1938, and when instead of modernizing, some of the buildings did not meet code and seismically. So in 1996, on their modernization, they flipped the campus. And so with that, but the gym was actually not built, was not built in 1996. That was built in 1972. So the gym there. It did not have an auxiliary gym. The weight room is very similar. It's maybe 1,800 square feet or so. Our Cathedral City High, their weight room, they've actually moved to one of the classrooms. Probably the only thing you can compare this to is Rancho Mirage High. It is the only one on that. But the age of the campus, yes, Palm Springs High waited decades for an auxiliary gym. Desert Hot Springs High was built in 1999, mostly opening in 2000.
When did we remodel the gyms?
So,
Palm
the,
Springs High School?
so that was during the seismic upgrade that we did back in 2019. Right, we actually started construction right when COVID was hitting. And we did, our main factor with that was the flooding that we had that was damaging our buildings. And so we had to take the storm drains underneath all the area, reroute the water out. We were seeing almost $500,000 in drywall damage in our classrooms with major floods. And we just kept repairing those, and we weren't fixing the real issue, which was how the change of topography had happened at Palm Springs High. So that was part of that, and again, our buildings at Palm Springs High, you know, the library is 1948, our cafeterias, 1948 as well. The gym was in early 70s because they took the other gym down. It was built in 1938. So that's a high school with multiple decades of buildings on it.
I got a question for you. I don't know if the other board members are sure with what auxiliary gym is. Can you explain that and kind of talk about that?
Auxiliary gym, in this case, I'm guessing in a lot of other high school cases, it's an additional gym space where this one would fit, as you can see, basketball court, volleyball court, and bleachers. So in order for high school like basketball and wrestling to have competitions, they have certain requirements that they need to meet. And it's 3 basketball fields that have bleachers for spectators to be able to observe. So currently, Hot Desert High School does not have
I can sort of
that.
speak to it as well. So just if they were to have tournaments, for example, the auxiliary gym is where the teams would warm up for the next game, for example. Winter sports is basketball and wrestling. So they, at this particular point, they couldn't have a wrestling tournament at the same time they're having basketball, but if they had an auxiliary gym, they could. Same with JV competition and varsity competition, they can do it at the same time in different gyms. So there's multiple reasons for an auxiliary gym, including their PE classes and whatnot during the course of the school day, to have different areas to get out of the sun and participate, when they have many kids going. So.
Now, what's the idea with the 2-story? Because I don't believe.
Oh,
the
that's
auxiliary-
coming up. It hasn't. We haven't gotten there yet. So.
This is currently single story.
And another question for you too. In that auxiliary gym, you couldn't get a weight room in there?
So,
I think that's the picture that they're showing. The concern that we have is the stability of that particular hill. Maybe Kent can talk a little bit about that, and how far out that weight room would have to come and whatnot. So that we still have to take a look at that.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Inside of the building, so the auxiliary gym is there. Can't we put the weight room inside of the auxiliary gym? That's the question.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this image would be basically one building that includes the space for a weight room. The weight room has got to be dedicated because you're not moving the weights in and out. The auxiliary gym is just housing the basketball court with bleachers for about 200 seats.
So you're saying that the gym has to be, I guess, able to move and do whatever it needs to do, and the weight rooms are stationary, so you can't move the weights in and out of the gym area, so you have to have a separate area for the weight room, is that what you're saying?
Correct. You would have a separate area. You have to have a different floor because of the weights dropping. You can't do that on a wooden gym floor.
Okay.
So you're not moving the weights.
But your question is
it
similar,
inside?
is what this is showing. It's just, it maybe look like 2 different buildings, but it's one building.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just one building, but it
Yeah.
looks like the space is
Correct.
Yes.
They're just
spread out.
showing you.
Just
that-
showing the space.
That building can't have the weight room added onto it, yes.
So what size would the weight room be what size would the weight room be inside of that auxiliary gym?
That kind of depends on how much of that area we can take over and how big the gym would have to be. Whatever area that's left we can use for the gym. That I don't know at this particular point that they can give you a specific size, because it's up on a hill, and that hill is, we have to determine the soil density and how much that hill can actually take. So, and how close to the edge we can get.
So Mr. Simmons asked me also to address, so the topography between the parking lot and the level area up by the gym, there's about a 14 to 15 foot difference in feet, height. So there's a lot of slope between the fire lane that goes up to the basketball courts and where that gym possibly could be built. We also have restrictions, code restrictions on how close we can get to the existing locker rooms and existing gym. We have to have a minimum of 20-foot separation between those for fire code. So and that's why you see that separation between the existing gym of the wall of the gym and the orange kind of auxiliary gym. That's 20 to 30 feet in these diagrams, but all that would have to be defined once we get into the schematic and design development phase.
But I guess just in talking in that regards, I know we need to move on, but that may become the weight room. That it depends on the size. It may become the training room, and the weight room just becomes bigger where it's at. And then you also have the wrestling room area too. So we have options with those three particular areas depending on how much we can add on to that gym and what space the administration feels like would be best for that particular space. But it would add the additional space for either the training room, the weight room, or the wrestling room. So.
Okay. So let's look at option number 3 now. Option number 3 addresses all of the deficiencies that we previously discussed to bring this school equitably to other schools and meet their needs, current needs, and potential future needs. We are proposing a 2-story auxiliary gym that would house weight room, wrestling room, potentially on a first floor, and auxiliary gym on a second floor, which would be the same level with an existing gym because of that 15-foot drop between these levels. This would also include the remodeling of existing training room, and then existing wrestling space could be converted for supporting spaces for the proposed auxiliary gym. This will address all of the issues in one comprehensive project. It will also have construction efficiencies, everything being done at the same time. And will also maximize site potential because it does take advantage of the existing topography. And if it's, let's say, option 2, we still need to dig deep to build foundation for that gym for the second floor. In this case, we take advantage of that digging and put another weight room and wrestling on the first floor if we were already doing that work anyway. It will also improve circulation and accessibility by providing that entry on the ground floor from the parking, taking advantage of that site topography, but of course, all these improvements come with an increased budget. And it will also address all of the softball. It includes all of the restrooms needs that we talked about, addressing all that supervision problems for the baseball and softball. Thank you.
And so, you know, the big question to ask or to answer today is you know, what is this all going to cost? And if you look at option 1, where we do just the basic needs of the campus, we always look at things in terms of project cost, the construction cost, but then there's also the total project cost, which includes all the soft costs. So if you look at the option 1, the facilities of doing the weight room in the initial project, it's about less than a $15 million construction project. Add soft costs to that, you end up with about a little over $18 million cost. Option 2, which introduces the concept of an auxiliary gym, increases that construction cost up to $20.5 million. Adding soft costs ends up being about $26 million. And keep in mind that we've also made some concessions where we pulled back some of the scope of the overall project for the restrooms and some of the other site improvements that we had discussed that we addressed in option number 1. The third option, which kind of looks at all the different improvements, looks at a second story that Christina just mentioned. That ends up being about a $25 million project. And by the time you add the soft costs into that, that ends up being a little over $30 million. So each of the 3 costs of the total project cost is about $18 million for the first project, about $26 million for the second project, and about $30 million for the third option.
Does the second option, does that include restrooms, or there's no?
The second option
no
did not
restrooms,
include
no.
those restrooms, yes.
But the other 2 includes restrooms?
Yeah. And we did do a quick analysis. The restrooms and the accessibility, all those components that we talked about that are part of option one, that is about $2.5 million worth of scope.
So are you saying that option two, if you were to add the restrooms, that's about a $2.5 million add-on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've seen three options. Again, these are just programmatic. We are not ready to design at all on these. We are looking for your feedback on it, but I did want to share Cabinet's feedback with you. We met with them. At this time, they feel option one is actually addressing the restrooms and the weight and training room deficiencies is the way to go. Reserve space for future with auxiliary gym, because we do need to see where we're going to be with Vista Del Monte and Desert Springs Middle School. So we're not saying no to auxiliary gym. We're just saying, let's get the immediate needs that Jeff identified up there done first, and then we'll come back, we'll reserve the space, and go from there. All right.
I guess the question is, what do you need from us today? Do you actually need a decision?
So,
or can we
right,
wait?
and that's a great point. Yes, we wanted to share what Cabinet's recommendation was. So we're looking for a decision on scope, not budget or anything, because we're going to come back to you. I think we look at a redesign, focusing on the restrooms, maybe looking at a different location for the weight room and training facilities, and come back and bring that to you with an estimated budget. We reserve the space in the future for the auxiliary gym, and we'll come back at a time when we have a little bit more movement on Vista Del Monte and Desert Springs Middle School. So if you're in concurrent with Cabinet's recommendation, kind of what I'm asking.
Oh, okay. So you need a few minutes to think about it? Or what do you think?
I'm not in concurrent. I think for the 12 million, to do option one, to go to option three, let's get it done. We always talk about creating parity amongst our high school. Let's start doing it. I mean, you look at our other high schools. You got Cathedral City High School, they got their own pool, they got a really nice stadium and athletic facilities. You go to Rancho Mirage High School, really nice athletic facilities, state-of-the-art stadium, state-of-the-art theater. You go to Palm Springs High School, state-of-the-art athletic facilities, state-of-the-art theater. What does Desert Hot Springs have? Let's give it to them. It's only $12 million. Then you guys go figure out Desert Springs and Vista Del Monte.
I have a quick question, Judy. For example, the option three, we don't sacrifice bond money or resources or budget for another school future project. Will that one fit with the other school that we have in the lines to be modernized, or the option number three is around how many? 12 million different? Yeah.
So right now, they're estimating 30 million right now.
And that one don't affect the other projects that we have in the future?
Well, it's talking about priority of funding. We've got quite a few projects coming up. We have, as Jeff mentioned earlier, we have about 160 million bond series that we can sell. And so where does that fit? We know Bubbling Wells, 100 million. We know Cathedral City High School, we're looking at probably 40 million. So that's 20 million only out of that next series, which, and then the series after that is another 2 to 3 years down the road, just in trying to keep at the same rate for our taxpayers.
So sort of to answer that question, this could affect the final phase of Cathedral City High School. If we wanted to wait on that and do this and then wait for the OPSC reimbursement money for that, I think for this next series, it certainly affects that and the timing of which we get these reimbursements. And we never know when that's going to come in from the state. But that's sort of why that was there, because we're already looking at trying to finish this final phase of Cathedral City High School, along with, this is just something, you know, that kind of essentially, I guess, fell into our lap and based on the equities of the other schools. But yes, it very well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it very well could have an effect on some of the other ones, at least as far as timing. We still anticipate quite a bit of money coming back from the state and getting these done. It's just, like Julie said, priority and timing of money, so.
I agree with
Doesn't mean we
Julie.
won't get it done, it's just a question of when.
I agree with Julie. She talked about timing and money. And I saw at the end of the handout how the increase has put some of our schools at $20+ million, adding from one right part of the year to added budget costs. And timing is true, that's true. And I go back to the review of funds, I think it's on page 3, and I'm not sure that, for myself, that these are my priority funds and projects that may not have come across as what I think is a priority at this time. So in truth, I would say the projects that are started, we need to finish, and there's needs to be more discussion as to what projects the board would prioritize in this list. So that's my thought. More discussion and prioritizing our
Yeah.
ideas.
If I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that this was not an expected list that you had seen based on prior discussions?
Oh, I don't know if this still is the same focus for people here. It to me, needs more discussion.
Oh, gotcha,
That's all
okay.
I'm saying.
So, I guess the question I have for you is option 1, 2, and 3. What are the timetables on that?
Well, I would imagine before we could break ground would probably be a minimum of 24 months.
Okay.
We've talked about it.
So option 1 will be 24 months, 2 and 3, so there's no difference on adding the auxiliary gym or any time frame that's on that would, you know, be a little longer or shorter?
I could see a few more months added, certainly 4 to 6 months probably added for option 3, just because it's a little bit bigger of a building, but there is some efficiencies in how that comes together. But
Students and different things like that, do we have to move anyone around or get anyone from that area? Will it be during the time when the season is involved with baseball, or how you know, how are we going around that? I guess I'm just trying to figure out timing schedule, and the reason being is because, okay, if you go with option 1 and you set aside for that area space, there's different options that can be in place where we'll have an opportunity to get everything done that we need to get done. And when the time is, you know, has lapsed and we got a little bit more money in our funds and have a little bit more money available, we could go with auxiliary gym also. And so I'm just trying to figure out the timing phrase and how time works, because we could go to 3, but if the timing ends up being as long as it takes for us to do 1 and then come back and do the auxiliary gym, what is the purpose of doing that when we can do the option 1 first and then come back and do the auxiliary gym and then still not mess with any of the funding that we have for any of the other schools in the future and actually have that release in order for us to be able to have enough time to be able to get everything done. And so, you know, it just gives us an option to be able to touch every base and not just put a limit. So I just wanted to know about the timing.
Suggesting.
Yeah, I mean, I can address some of that, and maybe Julie can tag in, but
But I'm thinking
so for these options, it was probably more about the funding and not necessarily the timing. The funding, what we felt like could be available in order to get the minimum things that they've originally requested done, because it is an additional project that we're kind of throwing in there. As far as timing is concerned, you could very well be right. As we get this designed and get things going, all of a sudden we get a reimbursement from, OPSC, and then, yeah, at that point, we are able to do a gym and go with it. And that doesn't mean we can't design out both phases, so we are ready to go with it. It just might mean construction would happen at different phases and different times, similar to what we've done with Cathedral City. So that would all have to be laid out as we get more specific into, sort of how we want to go about this. But you're right, as far as 2-3 years down the road and the timing and what money we'll have at that particular moment, we know we'll have bond money. We could all of a sudden get a massive development and get more developer fees, and who knows, right? So,
So for me, if I was to go with option one, I would like to get like some sort of a commitment that we are going to make sure that we're going to look at that auxiliary gym, and then when it's available, make that also part of the option one. But if we cannot do that, then I don't know, I'm kind of torn on what option that we should do, because I understand what we're trying to do, but I don't want to put any of the other projects in jeopardy of not having the money, because this kind of is a little bit of an option that has popped up. It wasn't something that we were expecting. And so as we're not expecting it, I still want to honor what John is saying and make sure that we are making our Desert Hot Springs community feel that we do appreciate them and we do want them and we do understand that the needs, and we want to make sure to cater to them. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm fine with option one, but I want some sort of a commitment that that auxiliary gym will get to once we have a little bit more money and we release that next set of funds of money. I think that should be something that we should look at.
And I mean, with the 465 million, you certainly do have it, at some point in these, processes. You're right, it is something that come up, but to Madonna's point as well, and to yours, I think they're both kind of combined. We designed that list you saw earlier several years ago, right? And kind of established that, and we've been working through that list. As Julie said, we're just about done with the first phase once we get Bubbling Wells and Cathedral City finished, and it's taken several years. And since that time, we've gotten a new $465 million bond in. We've done a few projects that we're going to get reimbursements in on. Some new developments have come in. So I mean, to your point, 2-3 years down the road, something, the money could be there, or maybe it comes in the next phase of the bond. Our point is I guess my point is needs do change as you move along, and priorities sort of shift and change as well. So that's why this came about in the discussion, as to where this definitely is a need and seemingly priority. If you were to look at that facility, I think you would agree. So, yeah, I understand both of the points there and where it falls in. I think what we could do is very well have it designed and ready to go, and knowing that if this is what the board decides, knowing that we do want an auxiliary gym, and as the money and phasing comes about, we'll keep you informed and as to what we can do, similar to what we did with Cathedral City High School. We do it in phases, and we keep you informed. In fact, tonight we're going to be telling you that we need in order to close out this final phase, another $8 million was necessary to in order to finish out this current phase for Cathedral City High School. But Julie will get to that in just a second. But you guys have been well aware that money shifts, time shifts, priority shift, and so forth. But we made a promise to you to keep you very informed, and it's tough to come to you and say, oh, we need a decision and stuff right away. And I don't know that we necessarily, we'd like to have it, but we understand that this is kind of something that you need to discuss. It's completely up to you. Once we get direction from you, that's why I presented that list in the very beginning, to because that's where we understand we're at. But, I wanted to make sure that that's, we're all on the same page. So once we figure out we're on the same page, we'll move forward with whatever option in design you're looking for.
Would
Okay,
you be
since I'm
able-
the last, I haven't.
Sorry, just one more. Would you be able to tell us specific numbers of how many athletes will be using, like the auxiliary gym, at what time of the year, like a projected, just like Palm Springs? The dance team uses it. Give us specific numbers of athletes, varsity, junior varsity. How many students with disabilities will have access to those facilities? What types of activities would they do? Just to see that equity come
And
through.
keep in mind, the city's growing tremendously. They're building a lot of new houses.
Right.
It's all family-oriented housing. There's going to be a lot of new students coming in there. So the number of students that are using the facility today is not going to have any bearing on the students in
Very
the
true.
future.
Yeah, it's one of the fastest growing areas in this valley.
Right.
But yes, we can get the number of athletes. And I think you just brought up an excellent point.
Also, can I
There's
say-
certainly other teams like cheerleading and dance that are going to be using
May I
this as well.
finish?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you. 12 million is a lot of money, but in my 12 years here on the district, it's not a lot of money to the district. That money can be found pretty easily. That's not going to affect any project going forward. So I hope we understand that. I would recommend design it to the fullest. Let's get it done now. If we put it off another few years, how much? 12 million, it's going to be 18 million. It's going to be another 20 million.
That's a valid point.
Right? So let's get it done, let's get it done right, and let's do it for the most cost-effective manner we can.
Okay. My thought is, option one does meet the immediate needs. I would love to go to option three and do it right now. I'm not sure, I think money-wise, I'm looking more on the conservative side, but I like what Charlie has recommended and what you've recommended of going with option one and building it out for option three, so that if we do get more money, we can go ahead and do that. So that's what I'm recommending, if we want to vote on that.
I have another final comment. The design and scoping for option 3 work for option 1? Can we build option 1 with a design? Can we remove, put on hold some of the building, including the option 3, but have the design ready to connect another building?
So, yes, yeah, we will go back and work on some of redesign on this, I think some locations with it. I know Jeff was not happy with a 2-story in itself. So, yes, we can look at designing this with abilities to bid components as we see the funding come through. Now, remember, 2 years we're talking about to get to design just for the restrooms, then another 6 months for that. That's just to get us ready to bid. Having an auxiliary gym will add another year or more to the construction of the project. So that's kind of what we're looking at overall. It's not just 2 years to get there and we're open up. Yeah, we're probably looking at almost 4 years.
Would you also say that that money that says 30 million, add another 20 million to that? Because we've seen that in the past. We know the
We have.
patterns.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
in nowhere could guarantee you that those numbers are any more than 6 months, that they would stick around.
Thank you.
I think to Karen's point, though, if we design it out the way we ultimately want it and then build it, if we have to build it in phases, we could, or if we have the money at that particular moment to build it as one, we could. So.
Do you feel that the design from today, 2 to 3 years later, would be outdated from what it would be 2 to 3 years later?
I don't think so, because it's not like you're designing futuristic classrooms.
Yeah.
It's just it's a square box, it's a gym, you know? I mean,
I
it's
don't
like-
want to put words in Charlie's mouth, but if I understand the correction correctly, due to the population growth, will it be outdated in 4 or 5 years?
Oh, you mean as far as sizing and whatnot? Well,
Yeah, just-
you also have to consider the space you have up there as well. I mean, maybe the entire school. I don't know how quickly they're going to grow up there, and, you know, I mean, so, yeah, it's hard to answer that question.
I
I mean,
do
right
have
now,
to-
we're in declining enrollment, and what I can tell you is they tend to start out pretty high at the beginning of the year, but toward the end of the year, they drop quite a bit of students, so we're trying to solve that issue as well. Yeah, so at this point, they've been holding pretty steady the last few years.
I will remind you that Cathedral City High School, before Rancho Mirage High School was opened up, had 2,800 students in it, and the facilities they have are the same they have now with half, and they are, no, not this large.
Another quick question. Approving the design and the scoping for any other option, we are approving the project?
No.
No, okay.
No,
Get a design.
I think what we're doing today is saying what we'd like to see in the scope of the project. Remember, this is programmatic. So we're not really, I'm not going to ask you for a budget. Right now, we're going to stay with the design funds, and we're going to come back with a refinement and show you how we can do this with components at a time or at one time.
Okay, is that okay with everyone? So what my understanding is, then you're going to try to combine one and then look to phase out option 3?
Correct.
Okay, is that okay with everyone?
Look,
Just
make sure I
exactly what you said.
So you're going to design it for option 3
Yes.
with some kind of
Phasing components.
scheduling? Yeah, okay.
Well, keep in mind, option 3 is a 2-story building, as opposed to just keeping it single story and adding on. Option 2 was just adding the weight room or another portion onto the single story gym. I would recommend that ahead of trying to go 2-story, because now you're talking about elevators and ADA issues and whatnot too, so.
However, yes, the way I see option 3 is you're including the auxiliary gym, basically.
And the weight, you basically have all the components, but we would try to keep it, you know, within that single story framework.
So
I
actually,
understand the
option 3 then-
architect and the, you know, we could save a little bit of money because we're going down and we're, you know, we have to deal with the footings and whatnot anyway. So we'll talk to the architect a little bit more and see what's the most cost-effective way to get that weight room in, whether it's below or whether it's to the side. But, you know, so, but.
Yeah,
You're
it seems to
gonna-
me if option 3 is, if the auxiliary gym's 1 story instead of 2 stories, it's not going to be 30 million.
Possibly.
Perhaps, yeah.
We will do our best on that.
Yeah.
And so I know our time is limited, and I do have just a couple more slides here. I'm not going to talk much about redevelopment. We're still looking healthy, but I do want to point out 28 is when we see the big drop in our redevelopment revenue. So the big thing on redevelopment, that's our matching to our routine restricted maintenance. We need to preserve that. And then here's our bond projects. We are in good shape again. We talked about the arbitrage up there. The 9.8 million, we made 19 million in interest. The IRS wanted 9.8 back. And in 28, they're probably going to want 5 more back. Now, we'll make a little bit more in between there, but we are now, I want you to see that, we're going to reserve it for future. All right, this is just an overview. Our budgets that are our project budgets that are split funded and how we do that. They do change sometimes when we get state funding in or expanded learning opportunity funds come in. And then this is pretty close to our last slide here. So Cathedral City High School tonight, you have on there amendment number 2 in the amount of 21 million for the next phase of construction with that. Now, even though our budget fits the 21.9 million, we know there'll be other things that will accelerate with that. Architect fees, DSA fees, inspection notices. So we are asking for an increase of $8 million on that budget. And what we'd like to do with that $8 million is use the funds that we received from the state on Palm Springs High Seismic. In January, we received $17 million reimbursement on that project. We'd like to use $8 million of those funds for this budget increase. So we're not asking for any new bond funds with this. And so this basically shows you how this aligns up. This is what we give our Citizen Oversight Committee members on all of our projects. And then this is what our split-funded project would be. We would end up with $108,018,288 for Cathedral City High School. So the ask on this one is to increase the budget on Cathedral City High School $8 million. using our state funds that we received in.
Okay.
It will be on the agenda next board meeting. So that is not, the $8 million is not on the agenda tonight. You will see that on the next agenda if you desire to approve that.
Okay. I assume it's okay to approve, to put it on the next agenda?
How do we not?
Well, that's what I'm saying. How do you not do that? Yes, we have to do that, okay? Anything else? All right, we're going to go into closed session. Thank you.
Thank you all for your